Hello and welcome to Follow the Boat. This is the third of our daily questions, which we're doing as a little special for this week only that fall outside of our vlog. If you don't know who we are Liz and Jamie, and we live on board a boat, and we put out weekly vlogs about our life on the ocean. Check out the description to have a look at the playlists to find out a bit more about us. But before you do that, day 3, question 3, it's all about downsizing.
Comet Jockey Dave from YouTube says, my only issue is that when it comes to downsizing my collection of belongings, well, I'm an amateur astronomer and it's a real passion for me. I would too deeply regret parting with the telescope in my avatar because it has a unique set of traits that no one makes anymore. I guess I'll be working that one out for a while. I think you will. Anyway, did you two have such issues when you made the transition to the cruising life? And then a second one, this one from Funk Daddy, again YouTube. Could I bring my synthesizers, drum machines, etc. on a liverboard, round about 45 foot, actually it's a catamaran, and turn a berth into a mini music studio, or would the ocean air be likely to corrode the circuitry? Two really interesting questions that cover the whole downsizing problems for people who are doing what we're doing, going from your big home to your little boat.
So as we said yesterday, we live aboard a 43-foot boat in length, that's 13 metres, and just over 4 metres wide. So it's not the largest boat in the world, and we have been doing this for 10 years, so we've filled up all the nooks and crannies and spare bunks with all of our gear, haven't we?
Yeah.
Downsizing, yeah, it's a big one. There are so many things that you wish that you had space for on the boat that you simply can't carry. Unfortunately, I can't help with the telescope question. I'd love to have a telescope on board. The problem, of course, is that on a boat, I guess with a telescope, you're going to need some kind of stabilisation. And unless you're in a dead flat anchorage or you're prepared to take your equipment ashore and set it up, that could be a difficult one, couldn't it?
You'd have to have some truly enormous, fantastic gimbal set up for it to possibly work on a boat. It couldn't, could it? It's something he's going to have to really think about. Because the great thing is about being on a boat, particularly at night, when you're sailing at night on an ocean where there's no light pollution at all, the stars are amazing. It's a big part of why we love this, isn't it?
Yeah, we do. We love looking at the stars, but of course we use a pair of 7x50 binoculars, and on the boat binoculars are a little easier to use than a telescope. They're a bit more stabilised because you're resting the thing on both your eyes, but of course they're not providing the magnification that you're used to with your telescope. So I haven't really got an answer to that.
I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know how he's going to do that. He'll have to work that one out himself. As for downsizing generally, well, it was a huge wrench leaving the UK and having to get rid of everything to begin with. Although when we started to go through all our enormous amounts of belongings, we realised you don't actually need that much, and it became quite a cathartic exercise.
Well, you say that, but I went off and bought a pair of digital mixing decks because I really missed my DJing, and that was one of the biggest areas where I had to downsize, is getting rid of my lovely turntables and all my vinyl records, which actually I haven't got rid of. Poor old mum has got them stacked up in her study.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And my mum's still got some of my books and my clothes.
Yeah, we're quite lucky like that, actually.
Yeah.
We're quite blessed that we do have people back at home that have allowed us to sneak in the odd box or two of gear. But it means that you do have to leave behind some things, and you can replace them on a boat with other things.
I had a 3-storey house full of stuff, so obviously had to get rid of it because there's no way I could keep all that. And a couple we were talking to last week, we were discussing how we all got rid of it. And eBay is phenomenal. You get rid of a load of stuff on eBay and you get paid for it, and car boot sales and this kind of thing, and then eventually whatever's left over to charity shops. So everything's being reused. I like that side of it. And working out what you really do need and what is superfluous, it makes you think. It compresses your thoughts. I don't really know what else to say. You can't really explain it until you have to do it.
Okay, so Funk Daddy asked about taking musical gear on board. I think this is slightly less to do with downsizing, maybe a bit more to do with taking electronic items on the boat into a marine environment. And if you look after your gear, it can last many years. And of course, some of that gear that Funk Daddy will be using will be old analog synths and maybe old analog drum machines like 808s and 303s and what have you. She doesn't know what I'm talking about. I guess if you actually store your gear in pelly cases, in waterproof cases, and only get them out when you need to use them, that's one sure way of making certain that they last a bit longer in the marine environment. I think really your biggest problem is going to be power. Actually powering all these things up. I don't think they would draw too much, to be honest, so you could probably get away with using an inverter, but you want to make sure it's a pure sine wave inverter. If you use a stepped sine wave inverter on some of that old analog gear, you potentially could ruin them. One of the great things that we've seen over the last 10 years in terms of downsizing is that things are getting smaller. I mean, when we first started, you think of the laptops we used to have, they were much more chunky. There were no such things as smartphones or tablets, and now there's a lot more we can do on these items which are much, much smaller and easier to store.
Whatever we say, the marine environment is toxic, it's not nice, it's harsh, and it will damage most things. One of the biggest problems is if you leave your boat, if you go away and you leave your boat, especially somewhere like this, somewhere where it's very humid, all kinds of problems can exist. So if you're not leaving your boat very often, that's better. Or if you are leaving your boat, take the really delicate stuff with you, I'd suggest. Of course, space is at a premium on any boat. One of the major things we did in our refit was to try and find as many new lockers, as many new spaces in the boat as possible. And we did. We found some things we didn't know existed, little spaces which are now lockers. And we also took the opportunity to do another downsizing exercise. We took everything off the boat and we only put back onto the boat what we felt we really needed. That was after 7 years, and we got rid of half of it. So you think you've downsized to begin with, but things just creep back in.
Of course, the great thing on a boat, I suppose, is everything is slightly miniature. Everything's slightly 2/3 as big. Your toilet, for example, is going to be slightly smaller than what you're used to in your home. Your cabin, your bed, even the cupboards that you have, they're all slightly smaller.
Sadly, we're not slightly smaller,
No.
and neither are clothes. In conclusion, downsizing is an inevitability, and you just have to grit your teeth and get on with it, and it's worth it.
Okay, so that's the end of question 3. Tomorrow we're going to be answering question 4. Don't forget, when we do post this video up, we are going to hang around by our smartphones, our laptops, and we're going to be answering any questions that you post up within the first hour or two
Live.
of it going live.
Yeah.
Don't forget to hit that subscription button.